welcome everyone. Again, my name is Kelly for those who want to talk to me now. Okay, my full name is Tamar Kelly Larkin. I like to go by Kelly, but my first name is Tamar. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. Jim Larkin, Hall of Fame martial artist and sensei, international entertainer extraordinaire, recording artist, entrepreneur, art aficionado, okay, Army veteran, fierce community activist, and passionate activist for social justice, okay? Those are just a few of the hats that he wears, all right, just a few. Jim is a San Francisco native, born and raised in the historic Fillmore district, which is known for its art and culture, and was the center hub of art and culture for all of San Francisco in the early 40s and 50s, actually beyond that. His exposure started at that time in those early years. Thelma Stallings, his mother, was herself a fierce entrepreneur who taught her son the importance of ownership, which he passed on to his children through example. His most recognized and family-centered manifestation is Larkin Bukido Kai. Yes! A martial arts program he founded in the early 60s for his eldest sons, Jimmy and Anthony. Almost 200 years later, his youngest children, Josiah and I, joined the class. Till this day, Larkin Bukido is run by our big brother, Jimmy, who is somewhere I can't see because of these lights. There he is, okay? It stands providing life lessons, discipline, and discipline to the youth of the community. And each of us, all of us, have our responsibilities to contribute to that legacy in some way, whether it be participating in teaching the class, holding our own classes, or just fulfilling our goals and our purpose within the community. That was always strong with him, and he kind of made us live up to that. Now, while my dad has played many roles as a serial entrepreneur and mentor, many of you knowing more of his life experiences and stories than I do, I get the unique pleasure of being the only to see him through a daughter's eyes, okay? And I know that he has definitely played a father's role in many young ladies' lives. So, as his daughter, this is a father who found out that I wasn't allowed to swim in the big pool when I went to camp. So he dedicated a day a week for that entire year to teach me how to swim at Hamilton Pool. So the next year at camp, I was ready, and I was like one of the only children that could swim in the deep end, dive, and enjoy my time. And that's a memory I will always cherish. This is the father who would stare me down after I got suspended and say, "But did you win the fight?" Okay. And it was gonna be hell to raise if I didn't, okay? This is a father that would constantly remind me that doors will not open for me just because I'm strong or just because I'm fierce. They'll open to a smile. Constantly, he is reminding me that no matter how strong we are as black and brown individuals, no matter how much resilience we have, a smile will get us through the door faster than our fist, faster than our anger. And that was one of the things that Larkin Bukido Kai constantly taught us, is how to harness your energy, how to harness your power, and how to focus it on your goal and reach it. So I want to thank you, Daddy, for making me the fierce young lady that I am, who refuses to take no for an answer. And I am really honored and thankful to be able to sit here and witness all of these different pieces of your life that I didn't really get to participate in because, as I mentioned, it took about 200 years for me to come along. But that is, I love to see it, and I'm thankful that I get to be a witness to it, and I'm thankful to see you not just get your flowers, but the whole dang bouquet that you deserve. So we are going to hear from the C Notes, the Curtis family. My goodness, my family, y'all. I love them. Okay, y'all come on up.
Of course, we're honored, and as you all know, he's Pop to a whole lot of us. And that's how we grew up talking and referring to him as Pop. So this song is the Black National Anthem. We felt it was apropos for what this man has done. Not only for San Francisco, but for our country. 1, 2, 3.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Let it resound, let it resound, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Okay, next up we have a video from Cindy Heron. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Play it off the side of the balcony for a guess. So, do we know what that is? I'm sorry. She's here. She's live. Live. Okay, I love live.
Hi, everybody. I did a video because I didn't think I was going to make it, but I made it. I first met Jim Larkin when I was 12 at the Blacklight Explosion on 330 Grove Street, I think, and it was an amazing, magical place. And within 2 years, I was singing on stage at the Bayview Opera House. And for several summers to follow, is that Jeanette? For several summers to follow, I sang at the Bayview Opera House. I performed in mostly Danny Duncan's musicals. Is that Danny? Okay. So, and at the Western Addition Cultural Center. But for us underprivileged kids, we didn't have the money to go to the conservatories and the schools of the arts. So Jim Larkin somehow was able to channel funds through the Mayor's Summer Youth Program so that kids like us, instead of paying to train with the best of the best playwright, director, choreographers, songwriters, musicians, we were paid as a summer job to be trained by these wonderful people, and then at the end of the summer we would put on, we would get to perform in these wonderful musical productions. And Jim managed me for many years, and I know that I wouldn't be the performer that I am today if I had never met Jim, and without him just being such a beacon of light for the community and such a transformer in my life and the lives of so many youth. And I am forever in debt and in gratitude to you, Jim. And I'm going to sing a little bit of a song that comes to mind. They wrote this song for you. Those schoolgirl days of singing songs at the Bayview opera house are gone, but in my mind, I know they will still live on and on. But how do you thank someone for bringing you from crayons to perfume? What can I give you in return? If you wanted the moon, I would try to make a start, but I would rather you let me give my heart to serve with love. Thank you, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Sydney. All right. So next up, we are going to have my niece, my boo-boo baby. She is going to come up, Noonie, CMR for you guys, to say a poem. Come on up, baby. Where you at? Where'd she go? There she is.
This is for you, Grandpa. The Harlem Renaissance, thriving and vibrating within our culture, our time, our life. My grandpa is a part of our culture and our creation, creating community centers and youth summer programs for children to teach them theater, acting, and to step to the beat of their own rhythm. To connect us to the blueprint of our ancestors, every draft bringing us closer to our past and helping us to create our future. He taught us to love. He helped us obtain the joys of our creation. When the fight for our freedom outweighs the popular demand, his spirit never falters. As he waves his sword to the enemy of injustice, he brings waves of hope to the hearts of our people. His teachings of karate have helped taken down the toughest enemies, the enemies outside our mind and the enemies within our heart. His charitable gifts will never outweigh his charitable works. His creation of a free store gave free clothes to the masses, not only clothing their backs, but their minds as well. As his mind jumps from cloud to cloud, he sees dreams that we could only imagine. Sometimes our eyes are closed, blinded by the sea of our temptations, yet his hand reaches out to pull us ashore, uncovering the wool from our very eyes, and suddenly the sun rises to new beginnings, feeding us our needs and not our desires. The murals he helped facilitate painted the walls of our city with his spirit. With every brushstroke comes a deeper understanding, a deeper connection to our roots. The textiles sink into the gravel that solidifies our family. Every brother and sister connected not by blood, but by spirit. As we come here today, we are forever bonded by the power, fortitude, and example that my grandfather has made for this generation. Peace be with you all. Be well.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. All right. So we are now going to hear from our illustrious mayor, London Breed, as she presents proclamation to my dad, Mr. Jim Larkin, and brings him to the podium and all that good stuff.
So before I do my official thing, I'm going to ask Jimmy, the oldest son of Jim Larkin, to come up here and say a few words. I know you probably didn't prepare to do it, but you have to speak on behalf of the family, so get on up here.
That was a good one, London. Miss Mayor. I mean, where do you start? Well, for me, I am the first recipient of Sensei's training. The first. So you know it was tough. But that segues to say that he is an adamant about the arts, and he was very, very adamant about us being perfect. If you're a martial artist, you know that perfection is the key to success. And you learn that perfection inside your personality makes you a much, much better person. And that's what he taught us, perfection. And the other arts that I wasn't a part of, because he said, son, don't ever do music. That's a tough business. You don't want to fool with that. And I wasn't an actor. So the other people who benefited from his teachings through theater and through music, you got a glimpse of it. He took the martial arts discipline and training and focus and applied it to the other arts. And I'm sure everybody in this room can recognize that because you're probably familiar with it. Whatever you did, you're going to have to come up. You can't come up short. Do your work, and if you succeed, great. But I need you to recreate something after that. Don't stop there. So anyway, the family here is very connected by the arts, and also the part that is the unwritten rule that when you're connected by the arts, some people can dance, do theater, et cetera, but the unity of the family and the unity of family spirit is what he also gave us. That's why we're all here today. 50 years later, we can all see each other, shake hands, hugs and kisses, and we really feel like family. And that's what community needs. And that's what he taught me, and I teach that to my kids. Wherever you go, connect with people of like mind and excel. And that's what he taught us, to try and excel. London, you caught me off guard. Thank you.
I know, Tamar, you are the MC, and I couldn't help myself. It's okay. This is family here today, and I run this city. Well, let me just say how happy and proud I am to finally pin you down, Jim Larkin, because he has been out of the United States trying to drag me to Bali and everybody else, and you just couldn't get me that excited to leave. But we are so happy to have you here today. And this came about because I had an opportunity. I was talking to Maestro, and he told me you were in town. And usually when you would come to town, I try to, get together and see you and hang out with all your sons, sons, including Sydney and Maestro, and I think Josiah. That's you behind that? It's been a long time, and I think Anthony might still be here, but Jim and I go way back, probably not as far back as some of the folks who are here, but we go way back to very, very early days. I think I was in high school. He had his studio on Steiner Street, where me and some of my girls used to hang out with some of his artists at the studio. And what was so cool about being there is, there wasn't any other place like that. And this was way back in the late 80s, and to have this African-American man develop this extraordinary studio that produced music for so many Bay Area artists, and how open he was and how supportive he was and how fast he was willing to teach you a life lesson, it was something that I appreciated. So when I became the executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex, I didn't connect the dots. You remember that, Jim? We kind of got off a little bit on the wrong foot.
Leave my keys.
Don't tell them that. We kind of got off on the wrong foot. And it was so interesting because a couple of things. This is why it's not always good to jump to conclusions about people. There were a lot of challenges at this center. And, you know, I unfortunately made the assumption that everyone was a part of the problem and not taking into account the need to sit down and have conversations with people about what they were doing and how they were a part of the solution. And in that discovery, not only did I find out that Jim was an important part of the African American Art and Culture Complex, he was an important part of what established the cultural centers, period, in San Francisco. His work, his advocacy, but most important, his love for community. And eventually, I grew up and swallowed my pride and came to Jim, and we turned it around. We had conversations about what we can do to make things better, and no one worked harder to help make things better in the Western Addition community at the African American Art and Culture Complex than Jim Larkin. People would credit me with a lot of the success and everything that was going on there, and yeah, I took the credit for it. I worked hard too. But I couldn't have done even half of what we were able to accomplish with the renovations and the performances and the events and the classes and all the things that turned this space around if it weren't for Jim Larkin. And what I appreciate most is not only did Jim bring himself to the table, he brought everyone to the table. He brought, I mean, just imagine a time when, as someone who never knew my biological father and didn't really grow up around a lot of strong men, and we had kids growing up in the city who were part of our center that lost their dads, and I mean, we didn't have these strong men, I believe, in our community, but we had Jim, we had Jimmy, we had Anthony, we had Sidney, we had these African American men showing up for our kids at the center because they had no choice, because you made them. And you made them because you raised them to want to give back to the community. You raised them to feel like they had an obligation to do more than just be in existence for themselves. And you brought all of these people together. Half of them, I didn't realize they weren't even your biological relatives. Tamar's like, I'm the only daughter. I'm like, you are? And the fact is, that's because of who Jim is and his spirit, his love for people, his love for helping to cultivate young people into being their brilliant selves. So I'm not surprised that Cindy talked about him in this way and knew him since she was 12 years old, and then became this famous recording artist and the sweetest En Vogue member, by the way. My favorite. Not because she was from San Francisco, but she was just the sweetest one. And it's no surprise that all of you, within a moment's notice, dropped everything that you were doing to come here, because in one way or another, Jim touched your life, whether he's family or not, because of who he is and what he represents. And then he started his third, fourth, fifth career singing in Bali, having all the women screaming at him. I saw the videos. It's probably why he don't want to come back home. Why we gotta chase him, Sweet Black. Why we gotta chase him down. But Jim, let me just say this. This is really very personal for me in terms of this appreciation, because of what you did to support not only me, but so many people when I was the director at the African American Art and Culture Complex. I know that you had an entire second and third and fourth life even before you did what you did, and you could have chosen to do anything. You could have retired, you could have stood back. All of the things that you've done in your career and your life around music, around entertainment, around things that weren't even necessarily your level of expertise, but figuring out who could make it happen, because you always wanted to make it happen for the community. You always wore your heart on your sleeve with everything you did to support and uplift people. So the fact that you are here, I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity before you flew away and went back to Bali to honor you on behalf of the city and county of San Francisco, to recognize you for your lifetime of work in giving back and not only creating an extraordinary and fascinating life for yourself, but touching the lives of so many of the people that you see here today, including members of your family and those who are your friends. And so with that, we're going to make it official. And so today, from this day forward, with all these whereas clauses, which I will not read and you can read later, today, from this day forward, will be known as Jim Larkin Day in the city and county of San Francisco. Jim, get up there and say a few words.
Well, first I want to recognize and thank Betty Larkin, Jimmy and Anthony's mother. She put up with a whole lot of stuff. She put up with a lot of stuff. I had a karate class with a bunch of kids, and they would hang at my house, and the little girls, I'm like a father figure to them. They didn't have no time for Betty. They just run through the house. They didn't hardly even recognize her, just eat her food and run out the door. You know, she put up with that shit for a long time. And then the same thing with Naomi. Naomi has been a significant part of our lives. She was the one. I really didn't know how to train kids to get a higher education, and it was Naomi who showed us the way. It was Naomi who got my kids and many of our friends into private college prep schools. You know, it was hooking up the Jewish family with the black family in San Francisco, and that really truly works. Yes. So I wanted to identify that very clearly. And then my daughter, Tamar. She, her mother said to me, Cynthia Bennett, she said to me, she said, Jim, when you get old and can't do nothing for yourself, she said, it's your daughter's the one's going to take care of you, not all them boys. You know, and that's where I really, 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 truly learned how The female mind is so ahead of the male mind. I mean, I learned that from having a daughter. You know, a woman couldn't tell me nothing. It was my daughter that I learned that from. You know, it was just amazing, the woman's mind. The woman's mind has protected us for years and years and years and years. And I, here in San Francisco, with all the madness that's going on in America, and I see the power of the woman. I see the power of the woman. And I see the sister crook her neck, and you know that the shit is fixing to go off. You know, she'll call a spade, you know. And what just knocks me out is to see a sister sitting on the porch of the White House talking about she was homeless with her kids in the car, having to park in different places, to spend the night in different places, change to different places so the police wouldn't see that she was homeless and take her children away from her. And she's a senator. To go through that and build that depth of strength and education, you can't touch that. That's what really that's what really makes my heart open, you know. The woman is what has saved our asses in this society. You know, so let's give thanks to the woman, to my sister. So I just kind of really wanted to say that because that's really how I feel. And I just get so excited when I look at the news and I see sister up there. And it'd be like sister, and then be a Latin American sister, and then it'd be a white sister, and they all be together. I mean, that's what America is, and we need to work it like that, you know. So I guess that's really what I wanted to say, outside of the fact that in my older age, I'm now moving towards spiritualism. And I just wanted to say that we need to learn to raise our conscience level, because we are basically frequencies, and you can just dial in just like a radio. You know, you could just dial in just like a radio. The lower frequencies vibrate fear. And that's what's devastating us. In the karate classes, the things that we used to do was deal with fear. We would try to let the kids understand that because you have holes in your shoes when you go to school, don't feel that the holes of the holes in your shoes, it's really the measure of the man or of the child. When you start acting out at school because they have embarrassed you about the holes in your shoes, it's you're walking on fear. All those little things, you know, either your feet's too big or your lips is too big or some old shit like that, you know, that teaches you fear, and fear is the enemy. And you teach children at an early stage to walk away from fear. That's what the martial art does. I had an instructor that used to stand in front of me with a sword, and I would have to look in his eyes, and he'd do an Omain strike, and if I blinked, he said I was afraid. So I learned to put the tongue right behind my two front teeth and press and focus right in his eyes, and he'd drop that sword, and it could have went through me, but it always stopped right there. So it might be physical stuff, but physical stuff comes from inside, basically. So those are the kinds of things that we taught to deal with fear. We said, if there's a storm coming, don't step back, step into the eye of the storm. And that's the way we dealt with attacks, and that's the way we look at life, not from a fear perspective. So I teach karate in Indonesia, you know. I teach younger kids, and what I teach them is the power of the imagination. Because what you think makes reality. What you think makes reality. And your gift is your power of your imagination, what you conceive and believe you can achieve. And the highest order is faith. So I just wanted to leave that with you. Thank you.
What karate has really done for me is while I have always been Sensei Jim, always have been telling me my mistakes, and then he corrects my mistakes. That's all I want to say.
Hi, I just wanted to say I'm Jeanette Morris, and I've known Jim since I was about 17 years old. Now, and I started at 330 Grove Street as a dancer, you know, going to those little classes and stuff like that. And from there, Jim helped me, him along with Mike Catlett, get a scholarship at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, because he just recognized, you know, that talent. And from there, I went to the Opera House, which is where I worked with Cindy and stuff, and I was the program director there. So Jim and Larkin and I would meet sometimes at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning working on proposals and, you know, to secure funding for our program at the Opera House. We're very close. You know, he's like a father to me, or an older brother to me. And I just want to say, Jim Larkin, you know, I praise you. You are awesome. You have touched so many lives, and I am so happy to have known you as a friend all these years.
Good afternoon, everyone. Back in the day, the Black Light Explosion Company and Zach Thompson and all of those people, I was part of Black Light Explosion Company and all of those things. But Jim was my first sensei, and he was that person who, we was those dancers in the Duncan Company, started out as the young troopers. And by the way, back then my name was Blondell Breed. I have since become Deacon Dr. Wanza Faraha. Okay. And because of this man and Zach Thompson, I got to work with Dr. Maya Angelou. I was in Blacks, Blues, Blacks, and that has catapulted, and I'm still doing performing arts. I live in Marin, I'm doing some things there. And because of you, my darling, I still can wiggle my feet pretty good. I love you. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your lives with us and showing us the way so that we could survive this business called show.
Okay. Sorry. The way me and my family knew Pop was when I was like only a little baby. I with my little brother and my little sister Isis at the time, and he was like our only grandfather. At the time I was so little, I didn't know really much about him, but I got to know him through my dad, who really looks up to Pop, and all the stories that he's told me about him and everything that I just really admire and really respect you. So my family and I, we love you and we cherish you, and we are so grateful with what you've done for this community in San Francisco.
My grandfather's really nice because he did a lot of nice stuff. And that's how he
Very good. Very good, my love. Go ahead, honey. Go ahead, say something. Say it. Okay, say something.
So Grandpa and his dojo was mostly like the first dojo I ever did in my entire life, and I really appreciate that he got it taught me and to do like karate. And I love you.
Well, so those two are mine. I'm Josiah Larkin. I'm one of the kids. I just wanted to share something that really actually brought a lot of this home for me originally. So maybe about 20 years ago, I realized what my father was doing. And that's because there was a young girl who was, I believe, 8 years old at the time, who was almost abducted at school. And that little girl fought for about, I think, 2 or 3 minutes against the abductor who was trying to pull her through the gate from the school. And it was another little friend who ran and got the teachers to come and save that little girl. But that girl would be a victim today, right this very second, if it wasn't for the fact that she sat and learned that at the end of the day, you got to fight for yourself. You got to fight for what you want. You got to work hard for everything, even your life. Love you, Daddy.
We got another celebrity in the house, Danny Glover. Come on up. He was trying to hide. You know, these masks make it hard for you to know who's here. He's lucky I didn't see him before. Come on up.
Thank you for this opportunity to run my mouth. I said so many citizens, artists, citizens make contributions every single day. Jim Larkin happens to be a friend of mine. And we were all in neighborhood arts together. You start somewhere, you know. You start putting words together, language together, ideas together, vision together. And certainly there's so many of those who are being honored here today, people being honored for the work that they do in their communities, in the service of pushing forward the efforts to improve their community, to challenge the existing conditions in their community, and putting forth the best efforts they can collectively, because it's not just them, it's the group that they perform with, the groups that they nourish, the groups that they inspire, people inspire every day. And certainly I want to commend the city for honoring them today and putting and saying that you are important, you brought value, and your presence and value has in some sense made this city a better city. And it has been. I come up in community arts, and most of people remember when I was trying to put 2 words together. Now I can put 3 together now. But they remember me back then. But certainly thank you for it.
Hallelujah. I had the opportunity to come before you, and I have had 2 seizures. So, but I'm back. I'm still here, and because he gave me some things that I didn't have. I didn't have a father who would be able to there for me. He came and he was here for me, and I learned how to do everything that I need from a youngster. When I came out of poly, and I need to be able to get forward and do things with you. He came and helped me, and he was there for me at the beginning. In the beginning with Jimmy and Anthony, I came out with them. That's why I'm 70 now. No, I'm older 70. I'm older than 70. 60, 70, 72, 70, 70. 70 is good enough. But I made it, and because he helped me, and he was there with me, I came. Now is how many years? How many years? It's been a lot of years, whole lot of years. And thank him. He was my married me. He married me. You married his cousin. I love his cousin. He's not here, but she said to let him know that he was here with us, and he's here been with us. Thank you very much. Even though I'm here, God bless you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Najera. We're the Mexican family to the Larkin'S. My wife worked for Jim for 10 or some years. We've known Jim for over 50 years. And we ain't only partners, but we play music together. And we've done a lot of community activity together. He was involved in the SLA food handout that I was involved with him. He gave food to all the peoples in the hood, and he has not stopped doing that. He's taught my 3 children that I have with Doris how to do karate and be human beings in the right way. And we've learned to accept things that people throw at us that we're really not supposed to receive, and walk away with a smile. So we love Jim Larkin. Te amo. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Marsh. I'm also known as the Enhancer.
All right, the Enhancer.
This man right here, okay, I'm the son from another mother, okay? So he's treated me like my father that I never had. Never looked at the color of my skin, judged me for that. He judged me for who I was and for what was in my heart, and taught me lessons in life and how to communicate with people. And I had a recording studio that London and Cindy and a few other artists would come in, and I just want to thank him for his contributions to San Francisco, to the martial arts community, to the youth. And without him, I don't know where I would be personally. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You'll always be a father to me. Okay?
Hi, everyone. I almost didn't want to come up. I'm getting off of work. I wear a surgical cap at work. I know I look a little hostile, a little disshuffled, but I got coverage and I said I have to be here. I'm one of the granddaughters. This is my grandfather. And I'll be very brief, but Grandpa, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually mildly intimidated. I come from a very, very strong roots, disciplined family, very successful. And a lot of who I am is because of my grandfather, what he implemented into my father. I was always the underdog. I was never the smartest in my class, but I worked hard. I learned to never give up from a very, very young age. He would train me in a dance, martial arts, and it's called kata. And I remember my dad used to say, okay, come on now, Grandpa's gonna be working with you. And I would say, oh, Jesus, help me. Because I knew he would make me do it over and over and over again for 2, 3, 4 hours until I got it right. And I stopped running from that, and it soon transitioned into excitement because I knew that at the end it would turn into something beautiful.
I'm sorry, I kind of got caught up in that moment too, watching that. I'm True. I came over here, I don't know, in 2000 or so. And Pops, as we all call him, Jim Larkin, is doing this thing, and I was just one more that joined into the bunch. But I learned so much from Jim and how to move through the community, how to get things done. I didn't come up in the dojo, but I came up in the theater and in the festivals and anything that had to do with putting the program together and making it happen. And watching all of these people from all these different backgrounds just makes me so much stronger in knowing that I come from up under you and being able to walk so freely through this path that you have cut wide open for the rest of us to walk through. I'm honored. Bless you. Thank you.
My name is Maestro Curtis, and this man is, I grew up with 3 fathers. The one who fathered me, the one who raised me, and then Pop Larkin was the other guy. I thought he was a superhero. When I first met Anthony, who used to be my road dog, and my cousin Carl introduced me to the martial arts through Pop. And that was a long time ago in the early 70s. And I never looked back. I've been a practitioner since. And it is carried over into every aspect of my entire being because of the discipline. And Jimmy, Anthony, and the whole lot, we are brothers, we are brother and sister, and that is so powerful. Pop reminded me yesterday, you're part of my legacy because I am responsible for you and your children. I said, well, how's that? He said, well, where did you meet your wife? Okay, we met at the dojo. And the man was so gracious to me that we actually carved out an apartment in the back on the side of the dojo where my wife and I had 3 of our children. And we would get up every morning and train. And we were training with the Nation of Islam security company. And it was just one of the most exciting events in my entire life. We've been on America's Got Talent. We're all on television now because of my consultation always with Pop, who always has advised me to stay on a high frequency. And when you heard him up here talking about high frequency, that is where we need to exist. We need to exist because we are people who have come from a mighty long way. We've come through trials and tribulations where we've had to rely on not only each other, but a higher sense of self and a higher frequency. And that is what's missing today. And I'm so grateful to London for giving Pop this day because it is long overdue. Pop, I love you.
I'm Anthony Larkin, and obviously that's my father. So everybody has talked about the martial arts and what he did through art and what he did through culture. But for him to do that, sometimes it took away from the people that were the closest to him, right? So you can't give and always give to the people that are the closest to you. And so an example that I'm going to say is I played football in high school. I played 4 years of football. My daddy never came to one game, not one. But I don't say that as a bad thing. I say because he showed up at home when I got in trouble at home. And he was early to put me on punishment. And he was early to tighten it up. And he stayed overtime on that. Right? So I was hard-headed. I'm still hard-headed. Right? And so it's not necessarily that he had to be there all the time, because he gave himself to the city and to our people, both black and brown, right? He gave himself to others. And in giving what he gave to me, which was a strong family, a strong semblance of blackness, and some serious foundation, I was able to do the things that I've been able to do. Now, do I go to my son's football game all the time? Do I show up early when it's time to put him on punishment? I show up early and stay late. When it's time to tan it, I show up early and stay late. It doesn't matter that all the nuances weren't done, because the big thing is Dad delivered love and discipline, and he delivered it with all of his passion. And thank you, Dad.
Is Deluzio here? Oh, he's here. Come on. All right. I'm almost going to close.
I thought they said so much I wasn't going to add to it. But
Wait. Deluzio was in a private school, you know, and he was raising hell, not necessarily in the school, but on the street. And I never will forget when I first went to the school to introduce martial arts. Okay. I never will forget when I was introducing the martial art to, what was the name of that school? Drew, this little horsey-torsey private school, right? And so Jimmy happened to get a scholarship there. And so I go there to teach the kids, to introduce karate into them. So we're there, like, so here's the principal's office, and then there was this other large room. And so I was in there talking and stuff like that. So I started demonstrating karate. And so I said, well, somebody come up. And so Deluzio got up, and we started moving around. And I think I did a kick or something on Deluzio. And I kicked, and I figured it was over, and I turned around, and he kicked me right in the ass. I mean, I almost dropped to my knees, right? I turned around and looked at him, right? And he was standing about from here to over there from the principal's office. I was pissed off. I looked at him, I did a jump side kick and kicked him through the door into the principal's office. And that's where Deluzio and I first met. So come on, tell them about it.
Wow, okay. The part I'm going to tell, I wasn't going to tell this, but I decided to tell it. I grew up in the Outer Mission, and I was pretty wild and hung around with a bunch of rough kids, I'd call them, and we were on one side of Geneva, and there was another group on the other side. Excelsior, Crocker Park, and East Side Daly City. For whatever reason, I never understood, we hated the guys on the other side of Geneva. They hated us. I don't know why. It wasn't racial. There was black, white, Hispanic, Asian, everything was on both sides. But it came down one night, I got shot in the hand, and then about 2 weeks later, Excelsior showed up and shot 7 of my friends and killed one of them. And Jim, Sensei, teacher, like a father, without him, I wouldn't be standing here. I was one of the guys who didn't get shot. I was organizing the other guys, and we were going to go retaliate. Either my mom called him or he read it in the paper. I don't even know how he knew. He came and talked to me. He said, you got 2 choices. You're going to be in jail or dead. And that made, my own father couldn't tell me that. I didn't listen to him. But Sensei Larkin, how can you not listen? And he put me on a much better path. I spent 30 years in the fire department with Jimmy. And here I am, and I am honored to speak for Jim Larkin. He's the most important. I don't go a day without thinking about him. Thank you.
All right. So we are going to close out, and I am going to touch on a couple of things. One, touch on Vivi and that intimidation about just being a part of the Larkin family. It is a whole thing. Like, when people find out that you're a Larkin, I have people come up to me and go, you look like a Larkin. And I'm just like, yeah, great. So what are you doing? And I'm just like, oh, I'm working as a teller at the bank. That's what I'm doing. And so he going into, I'm sorry at you. He gonna keep on requesting people like we ain't over time. Brother Zachary.
Brother Zachary.
I'm like, I can't see past the lights. He might have stepped out already. No? Yep, there he is. All right. Because he going to keep on shutting me down, apparently. Okay.
She got into so much shell that I put her in a Muslim school.
This is true.
A little surprising, but I just want to express deep gratitude to you and to your family, because when a man gives all the time, sometimes the family pays a price that the people that are receiving the gift don't fully know. So to Jimmy and Aunt, see Joe, Sid, Maestro, the family, I want to express gratitude to all of you. And tomorrow, I knew tomorrow in a different light. But, you know, you're always willing to serve the community in a very beautiful way. And my family has benefited, my sons have benefited from you and your sons. So it's really deep. When I got the call, I'm like, absolutely, I'll be there, no problem, my family will be there. So I just want to, it's like deep gratitude to you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
You want to say something? After I finish. Oh, okay, after I finish. Okay, so yes, I was a little bit of a wild child, okay, growing up. I did have a few issues with authority. I mean, but come on, when you're raised by Jim Larkin, how are you supposed to go around letting other people tell you what to do? Let's just be real, okay? And then I grew up with tons of brothers. So even though I have my set of biological brothers, do you know it took me till I was probably in my 20s to find out that Sid was not one of my biological brothers? I mean, seriously. And so, again, that pressure of just being a Larkin and that sacrifice that Anthony was talking about. So I don't remember my dad being at many of my sports, and I played a lot of sports mainly because my dad taught me, like, you have way too much energy, you better put it out somewhere, right? But he was definitely there every time I would veer just a little to the left, a little to the right, and I mean to the point of him and my brothers following me around Fillmore, okay, to come snatch. You better get away from this little boy, and you better get away from that house. And so that was a real thing, and even now, and the perfectionist that she was talking about. So for some of you know, I actually sing. And so growing up, I'm like, Dad, I want to be a singer, and you make Cindy famous, and yes, I'm going to do it. And so now we're down in the dojo singing Whitney Houston for 5 hours, and I was just like, you know what, you can have it. We're just going to stick to the church because they don't do all of this, okay? Calm down. I don't want to be Brandy or Monica anymore because that perfection is required. And so just touching on that, but I really do love you, Dad, and I love that you have been teaching me lessons that I never understood because I couldn't understand nothing you were saying past the cuss words. But once I became an adult, it started to click, and it was just like, oh my God, he's been telling me this for so long, and I can't believe I turned into my father being a serial entrepreneur that doesn't listen to people. So I'm just saying that to say that I love you and thank you, and I definitely wouldn't be as fabulous as I consider myself to be without you. And the good hair. Okay, first of all, I got some really good hair from my daddy. All right, just point that out. All right. So we're going to close out after my big brother says his talk, and then you guys are welcome to do pictures and stuff after.
Balance. Okay, 2 things. We're going to have a little meet and confer, hang out in short, at 601 Van Ness at Max's Cafe for anybody who wants to go. Secondly, for all of the martial artists, I'd like to do a formal bow, and I think it's very, very appropriate at this time. So all the martial artists, I don't care what style, whatever, anybody who's trained with us or has martial arts background, I think he deserves a bow, a sensei bow. Everybody on this row right here, left and right of me. All the people who has touched in martial arts in the class. Now for you who have not trained, look at all these people. Scoot over please, scoot over please. Come on, you in my class, get in here. Scoot down, tell them scoot down, Jihad. I don't know how we're gonna get it with all these people.
I'd like to give a special thanks to my children, the Larkin'S. My elder is Jimmy Larkin. Thank you, son, thank you. Then there's Anthony Larkin. Thank you, indeed. Then Josiah Larkin. Thank you, son. Thank you very much. And last but not least is my daughter, Tamar Kelly Larkin. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you. To all of you from Dad, I love you and thank you. I'd like to take this time, London, Mayor London Breed of San Francisco, for presenting me with a proclamation for my years of service to San Francisco, specifically the Third World Community of San Francisco. Thank you, London. Thank you very, very, very much. Always, Jim. Sweet black.